everybody, welcome back. It is Monday, February 5th, 2024, and you're listening to episode 180 of the Midnight Film Society podcast. I'm your host, Damian Sherman. Joining me today is...
Derick McDuff.
On today's show, as of today, we are 1 month out from the 94th Academy Awards. For Derick and I, we caught up with some of the nominated films left to be seen. Jonathan Glazer's Zone of Interest, Andrew Haig's All of Us Strangers, and Jefferson's American Fiction. But before that, we'll be getting to some movie and TV news, do some Oscars prognosticating, and finish up with some letterbox assignments. Right into the show, Midnight Film Society at gmail.com, Bicycle on Twitter. Subscribe on Pocket Cast, Google Podcasts, Spotify, rate and review it on Apple Podcasts. Tell a friend, family member, or stranger. What's up, man? How are you doing?
Doing good. As we were talking about before, just sorting through some technical difficulties with my new computer. So if I sound a little different to any of the listeners out there, that's because I'm still working through some of the not hiccups, but some of the learning curve, as it were, trying to figure this new thing out and how to get my old mic set up. So I might have to buy a new cord or something, but we're rolling with it. So Damien says it sounds good, so I'm going with it. So
yeah, you sound good. You know, as long as you need a microphone and computer and a little Audacity, and good to go.
Yeah, I got 2 turntables and a microphone.
Exactly. So let's get into it. We had a little pretty major death recently. Carl Weathers, 76, passed away a few days ago. Of course, star of the Rocky movies up to Rocky 3, or was killed in Rocky 4 by Ivan Drago, beaten to death in the ring, which is kind of crazy to think back on stuff like that. Was obviously canon in the Creed movies. But yeah, was 76, obviously was in Predator, was in Happy Gilmore, was in a movie called Action Jackson, which I haven't seen. But most people probably know him best as the guy playing across from Rocky.
Yeah, a real icon, somebody who, I watched Happy Gilmore as a kid, so I always knew him from that. And Arrested Development, of course, he played himself, and he's got those great lines where he's just like, throw that in a pot, you got a good stew going, there's that whole thing. He's immortalized in that GIF where he's just like, Dylan, you son of a bitch, and they just grab each other's humongous jacked steroid arms, and I was definitely, me and my brothers were having a moment where we were sending some stuff back and forth about this over the weekend, and I sent a thing where it was just like where that scene in Happy Gilmore after his character dies in that, and he's just like, "Don't be sad about me, Happy." He's just playing this piano in heaven, and then the last scene of the movie, it's like you see his kind of like ghost with the alligator that ate his hand and Abraham Lincoln. They're all just waving happy, and that scene hits a little differently now. So good for him. He just got nominated a little while, not too long ago, for his first Emmy for in his role in the Mandalorian. Just I always think of there's that great SNL sketch where he says something along the lines of, he's like, "Hey there, I'm Carl Weathers. I'm the black guy from Predator. And I want to be the governor of your state, because there's already been a governor in California from this movie and a governor in Minnesota." And he's like, "I know what you're thinking. Isn't Donald Glover the black guy in Predator? No, he's the black guy from Predator 2. And you deserve better than that." I was like, it's one of the all-timers for me. Like, that is such a good sketch.
Yeah, very funny guy. Could do, one of those people that could do action thing, could do drama, could do comedy. Really great to see him pop up in, like you said, in Mandalorian. Big loss there. So unfortunately that happened.
And I just found out he was on the Raiders, which is why he was on the Raiders for like a couple of years. Like when he was in college, he was on the college football team. They won a national title. And he was studying acting at the same time. Went to the NFL for a few seasons, did okay. Once that ended, was like, all right, I'm going to go back to this acting thing too that I was doing in college. So real jack of all trades, this guy.
Yes, absolutely. So rest in peace, Carl Weathers, 76. And then sort of tangentially related to acting deaths, it's the 10-year anniversary of Philip Seymour Hoffman's death. They had a really great sort of, really great sort of retrospective on the Big Pick on Monday's episode. Sean Fennessy did like a 5-minute monologue about, what he meant to him. He really was one of the greats, really huge loss 10 years ago. Some of the best roles, he's an actor's actor, guy that really came up. Scent of a Woman was one of the first roles people probably saw him in. Really did a lot of very different things. He was obviously in The Master. That was one of his big roles. Early role in Talented Mr. Ripley. He could be a character actor. He could do those sort of supporting roles there. I think I first saw him in Twister in 1996.
Yes.
Fantastic role there. Yep. As let me pull up his name because he had a really great name in that. Let me see. Philip Seymour Hoffman's name was Dustin Davis. Dustin Davis. I always remember the way he did, the way they were out hunting. They were out hunting tornadoes as the tornadoes hunters do, and.
Right.
And they were
storm chasers.
They were chasing them storms.
As you do.
Out in Oklahoma. Oh, Oklahoma. They were mid-hunt, and they had a big crash or something. One of their trucks got demolished, and they were like, we need to regroup here and figure out what we're going to do. And they were like, we're like only an hour away from this woman's house that we know really well. And they're like, I don't know. We should probably just keep going. And like,
stop, right?
No.
Red meat, we crave sustenance.
Guys, we are not invading my aunt.
Food.
Food! Hey, we're absolutely not going.
Food. Food. I don't know why that specific way of saying food really stuck with me, but he was really great in that. Many things he's been in that I haven't seen. Capote, Doubt, 25th Hour I have yet to catch up with. A lot of people know him from his comedy part in Along Came Polly from 2004. What else was he in? Stayed in Maine.
When he just takes the shot, he's just like, rain! And it's just like, boom, cold brick. God, that's
very funny. For some reason, I loved the 2000 movie Stay in Maine, the 2000 David Mamet directed movie called Stay in Maine with Alec Baldwin, Philip Seymour Hoffman, Charles Durning, Clark Gregg, William H. Macy. It was a movie about this movie crew that is making this movie in a small town in Maine, but it was very, very funny. So I watched that quite a bit. Huge loss back then, but still sort of reverberates now just because of, I don't know. He's just a great guy, great actor. Mission Impossible 3 he was in. That's
the one I was going to say. That for me, like, he's good in so many things, but like, God, that is one of the all-time great villain performances. It's just like, if somebody you love, wife, girlfriend, I'm going to find her. I'm going to kill her. Like, he's so chilling. He's so good in that movie.
What was the other one I was going to mention? The part in what's the movie? I thought they would have it here, right, on Letterboxd. Not Talented Mr. Ripley. What is the... Charlie Wilson's War, where he's the guy in the room, and he's like, I spent last 4 years learning Finnish, which should come in handy in Minnesota.
George and somebody.
Excuse me.
Yes.
Does this look all right?
It's fine.
I
Thank
can
you.
sand it down a little.
I don't know. No fucking idea who this guy is.
He is here to fix the glass that you broke the last time you were here. Could you just excuse us for a second? There. Tell me to go fuck myself, and I'm supposed to apologize. You break my window. I'm supposed to apologize.
The Helsinki job was mine.
The Helsinki job was not yours. If it was yours, you'd be in Helsinki.
Alan Wolf stood in this office.
Alan Wolf is no longer the director.
It was on the
Alan
books.
Wolf is no longer the director of European operations. He does not make those appointments I do.
Promises were made.
Not by me.
I've been with the company for 24 years. I was posted in Greece for 15. Papandreou wins that election if I don't help the junta take him prisoner. I've advised and armed the Hellenic army. I've neutralized champions of communism. I've spent the past 3 years learning Finnish, which should come in handy here in Virginia, and I'm never ever sick at sea. So I want to know why I'm not going to be your Helsinki station chief.
Your course.
Excuse me.
For Helsinki, I need someone with diplomatic skills. You don't have them.
Is that right?
That is right, and I don't know why the hell I didn't fire you when you broke my fucking window.
Oh, yes, sure you do, Cravely.
Look, Gus.
Yeah, you're fucking Roger's fiance, and you know I know.
I'm not even going to dignify that with a response.
Yeah, you're dignifying her in the ass at the Jefferson Hotel, room 1210. But let me ask you, the 3,000 agents Turner fired, was that because they lacked diplomatic skills as well?
You're referring to Admiral Stansfield Turner?
Yeah, the 3,000 agents, each and every goddamn one of them, first or second generation Americans. Was that because they lacked the proper diplomatic skills? Or did Turner not think it was a good idea to have spies who could speak the same language as the people they're fucking spying on?
Well, I'm sorry, but you can hardly blame the director for questioning the loyalty to America of people that are just barely Americans in the first place.
Yeah, well, I'd like to take a moment to review the several ways in which you're a douchebag.
Get the fuck out of my office.
Yes, sir.
Before I end your career, asshole.
Yes, sir. Yeah, my friend, I'm gonna need you for a second. God damn it! My loyalty? For 24 years, people have been trying to kill me. People know how. Now, do you think that's because my dad was a Greek soda pop maker, or do you think that's because I'm an American spy? Go fuck yourself, you fucking child.
Oh man, yeah, just a great character actor, but also, you know, obviously was the lead in Thomas Paul Thomas Anderson's The Master from 2012. Could definitely do a leading role there. Almost Famous had a great role in that. But yeah, great, fantastic actor. Can't believe it's been 10 years since he passed.
Yeah, and I want to throw out just a couple more because Hoffman was one of the all-time greats. You know, Boogie Nights, he's so good in that.
Yes.
And then him as Brent in The Big Lebowski, just like
yes.
Yeah. Well, dude, we all very concerned. Like he could do it. Like he could be terrifying and scary, but he could also just be like this like little pissant. Like he was. Oh my gosh. Like nobody was like Philip Seymour Hoffman, man.
Yes, absolutely. So yeah, continue rest in peace to him. So moving on, I want to do a couple of little bit of prognosticating for the Oscars. Like I said, we're about a month out. Things have been shaking out a little bit here and there. Seems like Cillian Murphy isn't really been marketing himself for the best acting Oscar there, so we're not really sure what's going to happen with that. Obviously, Oppenheimer still got the 13 Oscar nominations there. I did just see American Fiction today. I don't think the leading actor in that is going to go for it, but I'm
Jeffrey
not sure.
Wright.
Jeffrey
He's
Wright.
good. I love Jeffrey Wright.
He's very good, but I'm not sure he's going to get that. It's probably still between Paul Giamatti and Cillian Murphy. So I'm probably going to say Cillian Murphy still for that. It's a very interesting actress in leading role, leading actress role there. Lily Gladstone, I'm probably going to say still that, but it could very well be Emma Stone. You know, that's one of those things that I think Leo DiCaprio sort of stepped away from the leading actor race there to promote Lily and leading actress. So I'm almost still positive that she's going to get that. Anything you've seen shaken out since the last 2 weeks that we've spoken about this that you think has changed in the last 2 weeks at all?
No, I mean at this point it's too
solid.
soon to tell. And like nothing. Yeah, it's minute changes in a huge thing. You know, there hasn't been any major awards or anything. That's when we'll start to know more, honestly.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. I do like Past Lives for original screenplay. I think the only thing that would challenge it might be Anatomy of Fall or Holdovers. Cinematography, probably Killers of the Flower Moon. Maybe Oppenheimer. You know, Hoyt van Hoytema always goes for that one. I'm just trying to look at some of the below the line stuff. Killers of the Flower Moon is probably going to grab that. Costume design is going to grab costume design just because it's, I think we talked about this last time, but it's the underrated stuff. It's the stuff that's always like, yeah, we know what a a suit from the 50s looks like, as opposed to, Poor Things, which people always think about it like, oh, that's the most costume design, or that's the most audacious or most, just out there prominent costume design. But if you look back on what's actually won, it's been the sort of conservative. It's been like those designs that are very, traditional and things that we know what it looks like,
Yeah, the Academy is boring.
Academy is boring. Yes.
Things. We don't need to say it every 2 weeks. We know they're boring. They're still boring.
Yes.
The next 2 weeks, if you ask me again, I'm going to say they're still boring. The boring ones are probably going to win. I'm still to this day shocked that Everything Everywhere All at Once had such a good year last year. That is, and I think it was just one of the things where it was just like there was no going against that tide. That was just so overwhelming in all the other circuits, and so who knows if something like that's gonna rise up again.
Yes, yeah. Well, I mean, it very well could. So let's move on to stuff we've been watching. I watched 2 movies in the theaters today. Had a nice little back-to-back double feature matinee this afternoon at my local movie theater. But one movie I did see that wasn't there, which was All of Us Strangers. Also a movie that's not nominated for, I believe, any awards, right? All of Us Strangers. I
don't think so.
Yeah, I just did a Control F.
A lot of people thought Andrew Scott was going to get a nod, but no love for him.
Yeah, I just did a quick Control F on that article I pulled up for the Oscar nominations. I didn't see anything there for All of Us Strangers, unfortunately. I went and saw this with my mom, which is very strange sort of experience watching this. I don't know. Have you seen this, All of Us Strangers?
I have.
You have?
Yeah. I talked about. Oh, did we? I guess we didn't talk because I watched it in anticipation of the best of the year, and it didn't make my list, so I didn't bring it up.
Yeah. It's got some fairly explicit sex scenes. I mean, considering what it could have been, it wasn't that extreme, but watching this stuff with your mom is very uncomfortable. This is obviously
it's also about a guy talking to his dead mom. So
dead parents. I believe I talk about watching Leon Pete catching up for this. I think last time
I don't think so.
I might have mentioned it. I don't know. But yeah, Leon Pete, very, very good. One of those just sort of troubled kid, not orphaned, but definitely sort of pushed to the side and left to his own devices, and raises this racehorse that is sort of on its last leg, metaphorically and literally. Stars Charlie Plummer, Chloe Sevigny, Travis Fimmel, and Steve Buscemi. That was from 2017. That was very, very good. So that was the only. Actually, no, that was the second Andrew Haigh film I've seen. I also saw 45 Years, the 2015 film starring Charlotte Rampling. That was a very good film as well. But yeah, All of Us Strangers, and fantastic. Do we want to talk spoilers for this, because there is like some major twist in that, right?
Yeah, let's talk, because it's hard to talk about this one without spoilers.
Yeah, so skip forward for a few minutes if you don't want to be spoiled for All of Us Strangers. So coming out of this, there is the reveal at the very end that that Paul Mescal's character is actually dead, and he's been dead the entire time. Was that something that came out of nowhere for you, or was that something that you sort of picked up on halfway through?
That one came out of nowhere for me, and I really did not like that twist. I was pretty upset about the twist and the way that it played into. I felt like a lot of kill your gaze tropes, and it's like you can't like, it's like, okay, they had this nice ending with the parents, but they're gay, so there's got to be tragedy, and especially since like a lot of the film was about subverting that and how the next generation hasn't had to deal with that. I did not like that it played into that trope. Kind of out of nowhere. I was pretty disappointed in the ending.
Yeah, I mean, just talking about the logistics of it, you can sort of think back on, he's there. They're sort of there by themselves. There's nobody else in the apartment building at all, so it kind of makes sense that his body would have been there for days and days without anybody realizing it. But yeah, it was interesting because you sort of think back on them traveling by train, and then obviously he's there at the end. Andrew Scott goes and meets with his parents at the diner, and he asks for this, bunch of food, and the waitress sort of looks at him like, "What are you're gonna eat all this stuff? Oh, okay, all right." I mean, at that point, the parents are dead, but then he goes back and puts his hand to his face, and you're like, "Oh boy, what is this? What's gonna happen? Is Paul Mescal there with somebody else?" And then you see the body, and then you see, obviously, he's sort of, it just appears out of nowhere behind him. So you're like, "Oh, okay, well, that's unfortunate that he's been sort of."
Yeah, when he put his hand to his face, I was like, "Oh, he's fucking dead."
He's
like
dead.
he's
fucking dead.
Fucking dead. Yeah.
Yeah, but just overall, just this obviously fantastic acting. I think, Andrew Scott's one of these guys. You see him be like the sexy priest, and he in that he's very charismatic, very confident, and this is sort of complete opposite of that. He's in this movie, he's playing somebody that's very insecure. It's very quiet and very just unconfident. That sort of performance. I've never really seen him do that before. I've seen the first couple of seasons of Sherlock, where he played Moriarty, the villain, the arch villain to Sherlock, and in that he's this very swarmy, very cocky villain type. So this is sort of against type in that sense, right?
Yeah, I guess I'm not really super familiar with him.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's definitely really soft spoken in this.
Yeah.
So I couldn't, I haven't seen Fleabag yet, unfortunately.
Yep.
I've only seen a little bit of Sherlock, thankfully. So yeah, couldn't speak on it how compared to his other roles super well.
Yeah. Jimmy Bell, Claire Foy played the parents. They were very good in this. I like you said, it's not great that they do that. Let's kill the gays and make them continue this sort of suffering trope that we've seen time and time again. But you do sort of see this. Claire Foy plays the mother, and she's talking to him about his life and what he's doing and how he's sort of managing with relationships in his life. And he tells her that he's gay, and she's like, "You're what? You're okay? How does that work? how does two men have you love a man and can you marry him? Oh, you can. Okay. That's cool, I guess." So she's very much not. She's trying to come to terms with it, but it's very tough for her to do that. I think she played that very well. I think the stuff with him, sort of coming to terms with the Jamie Bell, his father, and the time that they would talk, and he said, "I was in my room and I would be crying, and I wanted you to come in, but I sort of didn't. I also didn't want you to come in." So they have this very sort of awkward back and forth of the father saying, I do wish I went in there, and I'm sorry I didn't go in, and I'm sorry you had to sort of suffer by yourself. So that was a very emotional scene. I was wondering if that stuff worked for you.
Yeah, and that's I don't just hate this movie. I thought it was a overall very good movie.
Yeah.
And there's so much good stuff in it, and I think that's just what, if it wasn't as good, I wouldn't have been upset by the ending, because I think there's so much important stuff in this about, growing up and how things have changed, and his mom, she's like, "Oh, okay," she does that classic thing where she's like, "Oh yeah, I just want you to be happy," but she, she's still set in the, because they died in the 80s, they're kind of preserved in amber, this old kind of way of thinking that I found really interesting. And like you mentioned, Claire Foy is so good in this. Jamie Bell, who plays the dad, is one of my absolute favorite actors. I think he's one of our most underrated actors today, and someone who never gets enough credit. And I think if he was taller, he would be one of the biggest stars in Hollywood. But he's 5'6" or some shit like that. And except unless you're Tom Cruise, you can't be that tall in Hollywood.
Exactly.
And he has so many good, you mentioned the scene where they're talking, and there's that scene, the mom is all surprised, but I love that his dad, it's such a dad from the 80s answer, where he's just he's like, "So you, mom told you?" And he's like, "Yeah, well, I kind of knew." And he's like, what do you mean? He's like, well, you never could throw a ball. And he's like, Dad, come on. He's like, well, can you throw a ball? No. Well, okay. Like, I thought it was such a just like great moment. And then when they both start crying, like, it's really fascinating, like the idea of it, because he's older than either of them, and the way that their dynamics all play out. But it's also one of those movies that's just like, just don't think about it too much, because it doesn't make any sense. Like, it's just like they're like, we've got this incredible premise. You're like, cool. You want to elaborate on that? Nope. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, I really enjoyed it. And I believe it's playing in theaters right now, limited release. Unfortunately, hopefully it's one of those that comes to some sort of streaming or some sort of VOD in the near future. But yeah, definitely would recommend checking that out if you can. So moving on, I saw the last Best Picture nominated film I had to see, called American Fiction. It's the directorial debut of Cord Jefferson, stars Jeffrey Wright, Tracy Ellis Ross, and John Ortiz. Have you caught up with this yet or no?
No, I had the option to either watch this or to watch the other Best Picture nominee that I had not seen. So, which is one we're going to be talking about at the end.
Yes.
And since you had texted me about that one, I went with that one instead. It was also like shorter, and I was just getting off work.
Yes.
And I was like, all right, I got time for one movie.
Yeah. Before
we record tomorrow. So I went with the other one.
Gotcha. Okay, so I will talk a little bit around this. The discussion about this has been a lot about the marketing of this movie. A couple of things we've seen this year where they have movies that are marketed in a way that I think going into it you'll think it's a different movie. The other ones are obviously the musicals that are not being marketed as musicals. Yeah, this is not the movie you think it's going to be based on the commercials. Based on the commercials, it's sort of just Jeffrey Wright writing a very like blaxploitation type book that he doesn't want to write but has to because he has to pay for his mother's nursing home costs and bills and things like that, like medical bills. You think it's just like sort of a comedy in that way, but it's very much not. It's very much splits its tone between comedy and drama. I won't mention specifically what's dramatic about it, but yeah, I think it weighs those two things. I think it splits those tones very well. Yeah, it's very funny. It's very timely. It's very gets into the social dynamics of a prestigious academic black man writing a book that is very much just, it's one of those, it's like a John Singleton movie, but worse, sort of Boys in the Hood, but worse with Boys in the Hood, but less, less introspective, less good, basically. It's just very...
Yeah, so you didn't really like it?
No. I mean the book that the character in the movie writes.
Oh, gotcha.
Jeffrey Wright. Yeah, Jeffrey Wright reads somebody else's book and is like, wow, this is. He reads somebody else's book that sells very well, and his publisher is like, well, if you were gonna write something like that, it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. And he's like, no, it's one of those things where he's like, no, I'm not gonna do that. But eventually, he comes around to just, shitting it out in like one night, and he sends it off to his publisher, and publisher's like, okay, so they're buying this for a lot of money, so like $700,000 they're going to give you advance, and you just have to pretend to be this like ex-convict that's on the run, and you just have to like call them up and pretend to be super black and super gangster, and he does that, and then it sort of snowballs from there where he's got these press tour and he's got a television interviews, and he has to like do it anonymously because obviously people know him, and he's got this girl, he meets a woman and he's pretending to not be the guy that's writing the book, and he has to navigate around that and pretend like he can't tell her what he's doing and how he's financing his mother's medical treatments, and so there's that conflict there of him saying to her, because I think he's dating the woman that either the author of the book that inspired him to write his book, or somebody that likes that type of stuff, and he has to like sort of do the balancing act of not disparaging that type of writing, but also I think at one point he's in this like literary group that has to decide on the 10 best books of the year, and the book that he I guess you could call it ghostwriting. The book that he ghost wrote becomes the best-selling book there. So it's just like this whole thing of him secretly being the writer of the book, and then he gets in the position where he can, put that on the top books of the year list, and it just snowballs very quickly out of control. So no, I did like it overall. Probably, out of the 10 movies nominated for Best Picture, it's probably in the bottom third, obviously, but still very, very much worth watching. So yeah, it's American Fiction. I believe it's out in wide release now. You can see that in theaters. Should be coming to VOD pretty soon. So there is that.
Yeah. I meant to see this one. But I just never got around to it. It was one of the ones I was trying to cram so many in before our Best of the Year show. This was one that was playing near me. I'm not sure if it still is. And it still is because I tried to see it the other night. But yeah, missed my shot on it.
Yeah, definitely worth watching. A little long. I think it's a little over 2 hours. So yeah, definitely check that out. Let's go to you. Found
like you saw what I did there suddenly.
Yes. Let's go to you. What you've been watching? Watch a movie called Founders Day. Tell me about this, since I have heard literally nothing about it.
Yeah, so this is just it's a slasher with nobody you would really know, except for one guy who I was watching it. I was like, is that the fucking dad from Boy Meets World? Playing a very Mr. Feeney like character, and yeah, it's kind of like another movie that came out a little bit earlier, or at the end of last year, Thanksgiving, where it's just like this small town community being terrorized by one of these slasher type killers, and in this case, it's instead of being like a Michael Myers, it's a guy who wears a person who wears a judge mask, and it's like I like a lot of the slashers that are also kind of murder mysteries where you're trying to figure out who's behind it, why. So this one isn't like incredible or anything, but I had a good time with it. I had fun. I was cracking up. It's what you would want from a January slasher movie, to be honest. It was nice to see Will Russ again in this. And I liked the characters. I liked a lot of the dynamics, and then I thought the ending was, which I won't spoil, was pretty fun. I really liked the last kind of like the reveal. I thought was a pretty interesting, fun one, and it's one that you can guess what's going on if you're paying attention. Yeah. It's not a kind of like reveal where it's just like that doesn't make any sense. It's like, yeah, okay, yep, that's kind of what I thought was gonna happen. Oh, there's a little extra twist on it. That's always nice.
Directed by Eric Bloomquist, very prolific guy. He's pretty much made a movie every year since 2020, since the pandemic. 2021 he made one called Night at Eagle Inn, 10 Minutes to Midnight, She Came from the Woods, and Founders Day. Well, all right. Yeah. Good for this guy, I guess.
Yeah, and it was one of those movies I just kind of like, my friend was going to see it, and I was like, it was on a Saturday night. I was like, needed some company, so we went and we watched it. And it's just kind of on a whim. I didn't know what it was either. And I had a blast with it. I think it's getting torn apart, as January slashers are prone to do. No pun intended. But yeah, it was one that I would recommend if you're looking for a good time. Not a great time, but a good time.
Not a great time, but a good time. All right, yeah. Sounds good. So let's go back to me. I watched Wonka. Finally caught up with Wonka. It came out a little late last year in December. Obviously, Timothée Chalamet stars him. Timothée stars Kala Lane, Keegan-Michael Key, Patterson Joseph, Matt Lucas, Sally Hawkins is in this. Rowan Atkinson plays a corrupt member of the church. Got Olivia Colman, Hugh Grant, Tom Davis is in this. Pretty star-studded cast. Obviously directed by Paul King of Paddington fame. Have you seen the Paddington films, by the way? I was curious.
I haven't. Those are ones that have been on my list, especially since The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent. I might just watch the second one, honestly. Like, I mean, nothing against the first one, but I just like Paddington 2,
Yes, exactly. Wonka did pretty well at the box office. It's got to be going on 2 months now that it's been in theaters, and my theater was halfway filled actually for a midday showing. For a movie that's been in theaters for 2 months, it's pretty good. It's made $500 million on a $125 million budget, according to Wikipedia. Chalamet was nominated for a Golden Globe award for Best Actor. The movie got a BAFTA award for Outstanding British Film. So yeah, it's well loved by a lot of people. I thought it was pretty good. Probably out of Paddington 1 and 2, probably in the third spot there as far as Paul King movies go that I've seen so far. Not great songs. I felt like the dance choreography was nothing stellar, nothing I've never seen before. Keegan-Michael Key pretty much plays the guy you think he's going to play. Plays one of those, he just plays one of those like comically corrupt police officers that are. Have you seen this, by the way? I forgot to ask you if you've seen Wonka.
I have not.
Okay.
I was kind of like, it's one of those things like, This sounds like it's really well made with a lot of really good people. I don't need to see a Willy Wonka prequel though. Like, I just kind of like, I'm not opposed to watching, but I just didn't care enough to make the time to go watch it.
So slight spoilers for this, I guess. It's basically Wonka goes to this town in like a 1940s, 1950s London, and trying to sell his wares, sell his chocolates, and the people that are already there, the chocolate sellers, the owners of the local chocolate establishments, are in this basically chocolate cartels who are colluding together to keep up the price of chocolate, keep the supply low, and they are doing that by bribing the local constables, like I said, played by Keegan-Michael Key. It's fine. The plot is fine or whatever. Like I said, the songs are decent. I think, based on the early reaction to Timothée Chalamet and the sort of winking and nodding, acting he does, performance he does in that, I think it was the negative reviews of it, the negative reception of it, I think it was overwrought. I think it was fine. I think he's doing his damnedest. I think he's doing a pretty good job here, of being charismatic, of being that winking and nodding, I think he's isn't Timothée Chalamet, he's like a dancing kid. What do you call that? Singing, dancing, all of that stuff. I think he's been brought up doing that. So I think triple threat. Yeah. I think people saw him do that and like, oh, well, can he really do that? Is he that type of guy? Yeah, actually he is. Cause I think Paul King saw him, doing some sort of high school, production of something where he was singing and dancing, and he was like, oh, okay, I guess he can do that. So yeah, it was not worthy of the hate that was thrust upon the previews for the movie. So yeah, I would definitely recommend checking this out.
What I had heard was that he had seen a video of Timothée Chalamet doing this really like cringeworthy rap.
Yeah.
And he wasn't so much that he was impressed by Chalamet doing that, but he was like, if he has like the power to not get embarrassed doing this, I can get him to do whatever nonsense I want. So I think that was what Paul King had seen in Chalamet. Based on the previews, I was like pretty skeptical about his performance. I think he's someone who in the right role can be pretty good. So I'm glad to hear that it wasn't that bad, I guess.
Yeah. Yes. Let's go back to you. You've seen a movie called Chicken Run: Dawn of the Nugget. I don't know. Have you seen the first Chicken Run?
Yes, not since the 90s, I don't think. But I did watch the original way back in the day.
Yeah.
Did not remember it super well, but I remembered enough of it. And so I was excited to, not excited, but it was one of those things that was like, yeah, I like Aardman Animation a lot. That was their first movie. I'm glad they're finally getting to make a follow-up, so I'm going to check it out.
Yes, what'd you think of this?
I thought it was pretty fine. It was okay. Yeah. It was one of those movies where you're like, they did not need to make this. Like, there's no reason for this to really exist other than I think people for a long time were like, well, there's no Chicken Run sequel. And it's like, yeah, because the story ended. They ran away. They got away. And this one kind of finds a contrived reason for them to come back. And, it's funny because, like, pretty much all the chickens have been recast. It's like, yeah, well, we're not going to get Mel Gibson back. How about the Zachary Levi guy? He's never going to say anything controversial. Let's get him.
Right.
Which is weird because it's interesting because, like, Zachary Levi just does his own voice. So it's like, how did this guy's voice change from Mel Gibson to Zachary Levi? Don't think about it. And Thandaway Newton's in it. Bella Ramsey, though, is the addition. She plays their daughter. She's really great. So if you're, like, looking for something to do on a lazy Sunday morning and you're just like, what should I put on? How about that new Chicken Run movie? Sure, go for it.
Nice, there you go. Peter Serafinowicz, Mr. Darth Maul himself, is in this.
I do love Serafinowicz. He's the best. The Tick himself.
Got David Bradley. Let's see if we pull up his face. Oh yes, of course. Okay, so they got the Harry Potter guy in here. You got the Game of Thrones guy in here. Okay, so you got Bella Ramsey and David Bradley from Game of Thrones in this. That's interesting. Okay, all right. Maybe check that out someday if I'm ever on drugs, heavily sedated, and I have to watch something. Let's see. Go back to me. Boys in the Boat. I checked this out. Me and my mom went to a bunch of movies over the past couple of weeks, and this was one I went to for her. Basically, this is very mom coded. This is very dad coded. This is George Clooney's, what do I want to say, third or fourth directorial effort, right? Let's see if I can find it very quickly.
This is at least, I know he's done at least 3 other.
Let me see if I can name them off the top of my head. I know he did Leatherheads, right? That was one of them.
Yes.
Good Night, Good Luck, right?
Good Night and Good Luck.
Did he do what was the one about
he's done a few things.
The game host, the game show host? That was, he thought he was a CIA operative. Confessions of Dangerous Mind. He did that one. Ides of March apparently did, and Monuments Men. The Midnight Sky, Monuments Men, and the 2020 Netflix film The Midnight Sky.
Very boring movie.
Yes. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is the 6th movie he's directed. Wow. Okay.
He's also done. Yeah, he's done a few more. Suburbicon, The Tender Bar.
Gotcha.
So looks like 9 total if you're including Boys in the Boat.
Phew. Wow. All right.
And honestly, I kind of think his first one was his best one, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, probably is, right.
These are all fine dad movies. They are all fine dad movies, as is The Boys in the Boat. Yes.
Very much just like, all right, guys, we got a boat, and I need some boys to go in that boat to paddle real hard. All right, it's gonna hurt your body, it's gonna hurt your mind. You gotta get your mind right. You gotta get, man. You can't be thinking about your dad who left you when you were a kid. Because I know I can tell you're thinking about that.
Edgerton, I'm a real salt of the earth kind of guy.
Who's the guy that plays Callum Turner? I noticed. I was like, I know that face from somewhere. Let's see what this man's been in. Green Room. Yes, okay. I liked him in Green Room. What else has he been in that I might have seen? Did you see The Crimes of Grindelwald? He seems like a Crimes of Grindelwald guy. Have you seen the Fantastic Beasts?
No, I've not seen the fucking Crimes of Grindelwald. That is an insult. I watched the first. I've watched the first of the Fantastic Beasts ones, and I was like, "Well, I'm out."
Did you see the? Okay, so you didn't see the Secrets of Dumbledore, the third one in the series.
I was already out before J.K. Rowling started losing her fucking mind.
Sure. And
Johnny Depp was like, I was not about to watch that one.
Yeah. Okay, so apparently this man is like 33 years old and he's supposed to be playing like a 22-year-old. I always hate that kind of stuff. But yeah, it's fine. Yeah, just you want a good dad movie. You want a good one of those movies. You're like, are they gonna win? Are they gonna do the thing? Yeah, of course they're gonna do the thing. Spoiler alert, they did the thing.
Right? They rubbed it in Hitler's stupid fucking face. It was great. Hitler's like, no. And then, like, I love how they're like, we've got to show. This is the one where Jesse Owens also rubbed it in Hitler's face. Make sure we show Jesse Owens for a second. And you're like, yeah, is that maybe a better story? I don't know. But I was also just like, it's like, yeah, these are guys who never rode crew like 8 months before this, and then they're like winning the Olympic gold medal and being like, "Fuck you, Hitler." It's like it's one of those things. If like it wasn't based on a real story, you'd be like, "That's bullshit." There's no way that would happen. But then you're like, "That was real," because it was just the 1920s, and shit would just happen like that.
It was the 1920s and shit just happened like that. And also you got to figure.
Or the 30s, one of those decades.
One of those decades. It's also one of those things where you got to figure, just like with baseball and football, once you start including people with actual skill and can actually do it, you actually start including, black people and Puerto Ricans and Dominicans and all that kind of stuff. Then you the guys, the Babe Bruce of the era, and the guys that, the old fucking guys that would be plumbers and carpenters half the season and then just play for the other half of the season. You can't really do that anymore, unfortunately. After you start
not so
bringing
much.
in. Yeah. So there's that. Let's go back to you. Checked out. Did you finish For All Mankind season 4? Is that what you have on
I
here?
did. I now that we're done with the movie end of the year grind, I've been going back and watching some TV. I've still got a couple episodes left on a couple shows. But For All Mankind season 4, another great season of television in the books, I'll say.
Very cool. So they've like I said, they've passed. They're past the current day, right? Are they into the future now? Is that what they're at?
They are still behind us because it takes about a decade jump every season.
Okay.
So season it started in the 60s. And so by season 4, it's set in 2003, and it's really interesting to see, it's like alternate history, so how things are different, and obviously there's stuff like they're on Mars, but then there's just stuff like, small spoiler, or I guess big spoiler, but it's for the last season. There's a thing that happens that is kind of analogous to the Oklahoma City bombing. The Soviet Union is still around in 2003. Then there's stuff like Al Gore is the president, like in 2003 instead.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting. It's really fascinating. Season 5, because they always end the season with just a small little nothing clip, but it's gonna just kind of tease out next season and what year it is, and they play a little thing of like, oh yeah, and it was like The Cure or one of those bands from or Franz Ferdinand, something like that, and it was so next season's gonna be 2013, and it's just like, man, it is rapidly catching up to things I remember very well.
Yes, exactly. All right, that's very cool. Now that's they're doing another season. Did they get the green light for another season?
Yeah,
or no?
They got a green light for another season, and I will just say this show, while at times can be very predictable, especially the season premieres and finales. The last couple season finales, I thought, have managed to take those things that okay, there's going to be a big thing that happens at the end, and there's going to be this big disaster in space. That's how the premieres start. That's how the finales end. But it really did some clever subversions with it this time.
Jesus.
It brings in a lot of interesting stuff about this whole kind of season was about collective action and unionization and workers' rights. Which I thought was I was like, Damien would absolutely love this shit. So yeah, I really liked it quite a bit. Really interested to see what they do with Old Man Moon Ed Baldwin, because he's like a character who's pushing 80. He's gonna be in his 90s in the 4th season. Is he still gonna be here? What's happening with him? So yeah, but it's just a really great low, hard sci-fi type show.
Nice, very cool. That's on Apple TV Plus.
The Plus.
The Plus, nice. So let me grab something from my diary just so we can go back and forth.
Sure.
So they did Screen Drafts this past week. Super Mega, whatever they call it, Scorsese draft. They finished it up. Yes, they finished it up this week. They did 30 movies in total. And the spoiler alert for that for that podcast, they crowned The Age of Innocence as the #1 Martin Scorsese film of all time, and that is one I haven't seen. So I took it upon myself to check that out this week. From 1993, starring Daniel Day-Lewis, Michelle Pfeiffer, and Winona Ryder. Have you seen this film, Derek?
This is another, yeah. So this is one I had not seen either.
Yeah.
So I really do want to watch it. I'm a really big fan of Scorsese's other collaboration with Daniel Day-Lewis, Gangs of New York. So yeah, it's one that the more they were talking about, I also listened to this episode, and I was like, this sounds interesting as fuck. This sounds like, I love that kind of shit. Like, that's my favorite Scorsese shit, is when he does something that he is not known for. It's like, I'm gonna make a psychological thriller on a fucking spooky island, or I'm gonna make a kids movie that's gonna be in 3D about fucking the silent movies. Like, when he does weird shit like that, I'm all for it. So the very non-Scorsese movies are my favorite Scorsese movies.
Yeah, and just it wasn't on my radar for a long time. It's one of the movies I think you have to like mature to. I think this is not something that I would have seen even 10 years ago, because it seems like from the outside, I think we talked about when we did top 5 Scorsese, I think you had Silence on there as your #2 or #1, I think, right? It's pretty high up there for you, right?
It might have been my #1, and I know you also like gave me shit for liking Hugo.
Yes, I did.
But Hugo was also on my top 5. Hugo's a fucking great movie, man.
Yes, it's not bad.
As is Silence, though.
I gotta still see Silence. I know Silence was up there on the screen drafts as well. Age of Innocence is very good. It's trying to see the runtime. Runtime is 139 minutes, so a little over 2 hours. Does go by pretty quickly. The last 20 minutes does a pretty large time jump. Get Jonathan Pryce in here as well. It's one of those movies you really got to pay attention to. You can't do a second screen type of thing with this, because it's very much about the looks, and Winona Ryder plays like his wife, and Daniel Day-Lewis is pining after Michelle Pfeiffer throughout the entire movie. And it's one of those things where you first see Winona Ryder's character, May Welland, and you think at first she's just, very oblivious, very not aware of what's going around her. But then by the end, you understand that she does very much get what's going on, and is not a silent observer. And just the looks, it's got that, Wong Kar-wai sort of yearning and pining, and that sort of the looks and that sort of stuff you love in Wong Kar-wai's films, like what's the big one? And I'm blanking on it right now.
In the Mood for Love.
Thank you. Yeah, so it's basically that 7 years earlier with Daniel Day-Lewis and Michelle Pfeiffer, because Michelle Pfeiffer is somebody who's lost is about to lose her status in this very upper crust 1860s 1870s New York, which is funny, because it's basically the same time period as Bill the Butcher, and that whole stuff was going on at the same time. So it's very funny to imagine Bill the Butcher and Daniel Day-Lewis's character Newland Archer existing at the same time, but in very different stratospheres of society there. So yeah, I highly recommend checking out Age of Innocence. It's I believe it's streaming on MubiUSA.com. Also YouTube, you can rent it on YouTube there. Also, just go to Damien's Plex, text me or email me, and I'll give you a link there. So yeah, highly recommend Age of Innocence.
Nice. This is one I've been wanting to check out for a while, so I'll have to do that.
Yeah, and you watched something similar, Pokemon Concierge. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, just like the Age of Innocence.
Yes.
Yeah. No. This is the Pokemon TV show that debuted on Netflix. It's even though it's a TV show, it's pretty short, only 5 short episodes, so it ends up being only about 73 minutes, I think. But yeah, this is not like any of the Pokemon anime or TV shows that have come out before. It's, as the name implies, a girl gets a job as a Pokemon concierge, working at a Pokemon hotel, and it is stop motion animated, and it is just It's so just wholesome and gorgeous. And if you are like me, somebody who grew up playing Pokemon, loving Pokemon, and you just want to see a really awesome love letter to the franchise, it's very nice. It's very um, beautifully animated. Everything looks unique and it's very relaxing. And it's just about this girl who kind of is very high stressed and high strung. So she gets this job to kind of learn to relax. Um, I thought it was phenomenal. I really like this. I don't know if it's gonna work for non-Pokemon fans.
Yeah.
But if you are a Pokemon fan, I can't recommend it enough. Or if you're just a fan of animation, because you don't see that much stop motion stuff anymore. And this is really good stop motion. It uses all different kinds of materials. Each Pokemon looks very unique. They use some of them are like made with felt, and some are made with claymation. It's all kinds of different stuff. They'll use their moves and they'll be animated in cool, interesting ways. And other than like Lycan Aardman, there's not really a lot of games in town for this kind of style.
Nice. So if you've been playing Pal World over the past couple of weeks, gotten your Pokemon fix in, check out some more Pokemon. Check this out. Where did you see this, by the way?
It's on Netflix.
Netflix, gotcha. Okay, yeah, because I clicked on the Letterboxd link, and it usually says where to watch, and it says not streaming on any services here. Maybe I didn't have my services on here. Okay, yeah, it is on Netflix. Yep. Okay.
Yeah, so Netflix original.
Netflix original. Nice. All right, so that just leaves the big one, the Zone of Interest. Like I said, one of the 10 movies nominated for Best Picture at the Academy Awards this year. We both saw this week. I was looking forward to it. Jonathan Glazer is somebody that I've enjoyed his films. The Under the Skin was his last one. He's only done was it 3 or 4? He did Sexy Beast.
Four, I think, yeah.
4 of them, yeah. Sexy Beast in 2000. Really enjoyed that one. Haven't seen it in a long time, but I remember enjoying it when I did see it, starring Ray Winstone and Ben Kingsley. Then, of course, Birth in 2004 with Nicole Kidman. I have yet to see that. He did Under the Skin in 2013. One of the earliest and most successful and one of the most highly praised A24 films from back then. This year is coming out with The Zone of Interest, a very strange movie. Let me pull up the Wikipedia because I know it's based on a book by Martin Amis from 2013-2014. Stars Christian Friedel and Sandra Hüller. Second time we've seen Miss Hüller this year, obviously after her legal drama, Anatomy of a Fall. Give me your quick thoughts on this. What do you think of The Zone of Interest?
I saw, so like I said, I saw this last night. This was the other Oscar movie that I had yet to see. And yeah, I don't know. It's I get why this movie is being so universally praised, because it does feel like very important. And I was thinking about last night I was watching it, and World War II is something that's kind of passing out of the public or the memory. I mean, it's not like people obviously know about World War II. It's very much ingrained in us. But when I was a kid, there was just people that had lived through World War II. I was born in the very, very late 80s. So, I was, still 0 when the 90s started. But that meant that there was old people that knew about World War II and had lived through it. Like my grandfather was in a U-boat, or not a U-boat, whatever the American version of that is, the submarines in World War II.
Yeah.
And now there's still people who fought in World War II, but they're like a million, so it's, even the people who are super old, like the 80-year-olds who are running this country were like babies when World War II was happening.
Yeah.
So it's important, I think, to keep this fresh in the public memory. But I don't think I'm someone who exactly reverberates on Glazer's very specific wavelength of just kind of very visceral, very sound oriented, and just kind of it's almost borderline like a student experimental film, a lot of his stuff.
Yeah.
And it's so interesting because you bring up Under the Skin, which I watched a while back for one of our Letterboxd shuffles. And this is it's very it's so different in terms of theme, in terms of like what it's presenting. One's like Scarlett Johansson's a sexy alien, and this one's like about boring Nazis.
Yeah.
But they're the way that the film language in them is so similar that despite being on completely different topics, they do still feel of a piece. And I don't think it was bad. I think it was a really well made, interesting movie, but I just didn't vibe with it so much. We were texting a little bit about the scenes with, and it was one of those things where like, I mean, at first I couldn't even tell what was happening because of the way it was shot, where it being like that weird negative or something.
Yeah.
Eventually I was like, okay, she's giving some kind of food. It's like, I guess it's like a local girl hiding food for the Jewish people. But it felt kind of disconnected from the rest of the story, which I think is intentional, but I was kind of like, okay, that's cool, that's interesting, but like this is a movie about putting us in the headspace of these absolutely horrific monsters. And there's some things in this where I know I'm rambling, but it's a lot with this movie.
Yeah.
I would just like every once in a while, I'm like, Jesus Christ, because someone would just say something like, oh, I wonder if my old like the mom shows up. She's like, I wonder if this old Jewish lady I used to know is over there behind the wall.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's probably getting fucking burned alive.
I liked her curtains. She was like,
yeah,
I
exactly.
got her curtains.
I wanted to get her curtains, and I'm like, Jesus Christ! Like, there's like a moment where like Sandra Hüller is like putting on a coat, and it just hits you like, oh yeah, this is. She's just like, oh, like look at me, I look so fancy in this new coat, and you're just like, this is from someone who's just been fucking systematically murdered. Like it's a hard film to watch. I will say it's a movie, and that's why I didn't see it. A big part of the reason I didn't seek it out until now. I don't know if this is one I can recommend to people.
Yeah, no.
I get why people will say that this is an important film, but in the end, like, I know Nazis are bad. I don't need to watch them be fucking boring and evil for an hour and 45 minutes.
Yeah. I just want to go back to what you were saying at the beginning about like, World War II is almost, we're coming up on like 90 years and of I think it started at 37, 38, obviously ended 45. And I was just thinking when I was watching this, like, what's the last great World War II movie? And I just pulled up some as we were talking, and Dunkirk in 2017 is probably one of the most quote unquote conventional compared to this, right? Fury from 2014. I think something that probably not as focused on the warfare, but Jojo Rabbit from 2019, right? And
I would honestly put Holocaust movies in a different category, like Jojo Rabbit or like Schindler's List. This one, because they're not focused on the war, right? It's set during the war and it's adjacent to it, but like there's no, and like there's guards, but they're not like, there's no battles,
No.
Like these are people who are getting the victims of the Holocaust are like, in most cases, like citizens, of like their average everyday people who are not captured soldiers. That unless it was like this more of the Soviet front. So I don't think I would call this a war movie necessarily.
Yeah, no, and it's from that perspective, right? It's noteworthy and it's praiseworthy based on the fact that when you think about World War II movies or war movies in general, I forgot who said it, but somebody said, every war movie there's never been there's never been an anti-war movie, and just based on that fact and based on that perspective, this is is different and it's challenging and it's it's all those things. I had some notes where the like you said, the surface level, the most common sort of criticism, the most common analysis of the movie is that it's it's about the banality of evil. It's about it's if you didn't know who they were, what they were doing, you didn't know the circumstances of what they were there to do, you would just assume this is a normal family, right? So that's sort of what the surface level. That's what the conceit of the movie is. It's like Nazis were they were people, and they were awful people, and they were sort of the most evil people we've ever known. Most recently, the most evil people we've known, but they were still people. And that, like you said, the idea of we know they're human. We know that they're capable of being. We know they're capable of doing war crimes, and we know they're capable of doing violence against other people. But we also know that they're human. We also know that they're capable of being just normal people. We know that. And you said that that's not something that's novel, or that's not something that's new. That maybe not something that's praiseworthy. But I that's just a surface level to me, obviously. I think it's they talk about in the movie a lot of like Rudolph his family is asked to move because of restructuring. So I thought that was a way for the director and the way for the screenwriter to talk about the Nazi regime and Hitler's sort of the things that the Nazis did, as framing it as capitalism, framing it as a business. He's drawing parallels between the government, the military, and how it's structured and how it's operating as a corporation, right? Because there's the points in that movie where the guy is coming over with the plans, with the blueprint, and saying, look how efficient this is. This chamber is cooling down, this chamber is heating up, and it's all moving very efficiently like a machine. It's all, look how many people we can kill in such a short period of time. So I think from taking that aspect of it, I think what the movie is about and what the director is trying to say is, I think we mentioned this before about how capitalism and fascism and racism and all that stuff works well together, white supremacy, how this stuff works together. When we were talking about Killers of the Flower Moon, about how, like I said, fascism and capitalism work in tandem to eliminate your enemy as quickly and as efficiently as possible. It's how they've framed it as, the Nazis obviously framed what they were doing as like they aren't the same thing we're seeing today with migrants, of them framing Jewish people as less than human, right? So from that perspective, if they're not human, then this is the way we can eliminate them as efficiently as possible. So I think that's a lot of the message there. Like you said, the night vision parts, I found quote, maybe not a quote, but somebody was saying like it's a light in the darkness. This whole movie is about how there's really nothing that can be done about this, and there's just a crushing and machine-like movement, and just it's so unbearable, and there's nothing to be gained from watching this. And I think that sort of night vision thing and showing that there's just a little bit of hope and a little bit of just effort being put into just trying to keep whoever alive. I'm not sure who she was planning these for. And like I said in the text message, I don't know if there were people coming through from other countries or from other regions of Poland that were trying to find somewhere to be safe. And that was sort of just like a drop-off point of like them coming through and them grabbing some potatoes just for their journey. I'm not really sure what that was for, but yeah, that was my read on it, of just, for 2 hours you're watching just maniacally evil people doing evil shit. And I think that was his Jonathan Glazer's way of saying, there was an effort, there was a resistance, there was hope in this darkness. It's just over and over again. You're just, like you said, what they're saying, what they're going through, the discussions of, yeah, we're just gonna kill all these fucking people and take all their shit, and that's all there is, and it's never gonna end. Yeah, well, we're not gonna show you the end of it. We're not gonna show you them being killed. I hope they were killed. I hope they were brought to justice.
I did look up. I was like, what happened to this fucker? And I was like, cool, he got hanged after Nuremberg, so good.
Yeah. And just to talk about a little bit of the how it was made, because I think it was very interesting. The way it was shot was very, people were calling it Big Brother because that's how that reality shows are shot like that, where the cameras were placed just locked down, and the actors.
Big Brother is a reality show, but yeah,
right. The camera was just locked down in the corners of the room, and you had, I guess the director just had Sandra Hüller and the father, the guy that played the father, just sort of walking around and doing the scenes, playing out the scenes in real time. So that was something that Sandra Hüller talked about. She said, quote, "You could shoot simultaneously from the gate in the garden into the house, through the kitchen, and all the way into the office. So you wouldn't have any problem with continuity or with light because everything fit together. It creates something very important for this work, which is a sense of surveillance. You're constantly looked at, and then, of course, because we are German, there's a sense of judgment, which is very interesting. The pressure was very uncomfortable but necessary. It also creates a focus from all the actors at the same time because the camera's never turned, so you can never relax. You only have each other, so you have to rely on each other so much and on yourselves because you can't hide anything. You're constantly centered on yourself. You are in this room and you really know everybody's watching you. It's very intimidating. So yeah, it was very interesting because you don't, thinking back on it, there was never, focus pulling. There was never, look at this foreground, or, don't pay attention to the background because the background is going to be out of focus. You have to pay attention to the foreground. Everything was, in focus all the time. So that was a way that I really found myself looking around the edges of the screen, in the background and the foreground. There was very, very interesting shots of the garden and of the compound. And in the background, there was one particular shot where you can just see not the train itself, but the smoke coming out of the train going from right to left into the frame as the family was just lounging around in the compound in the backyard there. So that was very interesting. So yeah, I just found it the experience of watching it in the theater, because it wasn't a packed theater and it's a very small theater, but it was enough that you could very, very easily sort of be aware of the sounds. Again, I think the thing we haven't talked about is how important the sound design is and how the sound was composed to have the people talking, the family, the Nazis talking and just having a regular time. And then in the background, you hear screaming and gunshots and dogs barking and people being attacked, obviously. And there's a part where the father's in the river and he's fishing and his kids are playing in the river, and you just see this dust and this, obviously the cremated remains of the Jewish people that were burned in Auschwitz, and those remains were coming into the river. So, that's just a part of the banality and the routine of this family and what they were doing and the normalcy of what they were doing, compounded and contrasted with the atrocities being committed right next door. So I thought from that perspective it was very, very interesting. So yeah, again, I just want to highlight to just conclude my long monologue here, but the music, the lack of music rather, was very impactful. Mika Levy was the composer of this, and I think it was very notable that you have this. I don't even know how you would describe it. What adjective you would use to describe the the music in the beginning? It was very drony, right? And then it just stops there, and it only comes back at the end. And I want to discuss with you what you thought of the ending. I pulled up here a tweet that I found that really brought into stark relief, what it was about. So this tweet says, quote, "The moment near the end of the Zone of Interest, when Jonathan Glazer opens a cinematic vortex for the fictionalized past and the real present to stare at each other, almost like a visceral premonition for the protagonist, is an absolutely brilliant formal detour," which, we could discuss how it landed for each of us, but I thought that was very interesting because it really didn't. It's one of those things you watch it the first time and seeing it in real time, trying, like you said, just trying to get a grip on what the filmmaker is trying to say and even what's happening. Spoiler alert for the Zone of Interest, but the very end, you have the Rudolf Haus in this compound or this building that they had a party in, and everybody's gone for the night, and he's locking up and turning off all the lights, and it very quickly cuts to modern day. I'm assuming it's modern day the Auschwitz facility where they have it's a what would you call it, a museum, right, where they have shoes
like
and
Holocaust museum. Yeah,
they have shoes and they have purses behind in this room for people to come in and see, and you have these cleaners that are wiping the windows and cleaning up any dust or anything like that, and it cuts back and forth. It cuts once to that, and then it cuts very quickly back to the World War II era, with Rudolf Haugh sort of looking down that aisle, looking down that corridor, which I'm assuming is where the Auschwitz Museum was placed after the World War II. So based on that tweet, I guess that it now makes sense for me what that scene and what that contrast and what that composition was supposed to be saying. I'm curious for you, Derick, does that make sense now? And what did it mean for you in the moment watching it?
Yeah, in the moment, I was a little kind of like, taken. I was like, what is? I was kind of like, because it's shocking. It's very abrupt, and then it abruptly goes back to the rest of the movie, and then it very abruptly ends. And the way I took it is like it was just showing, the cost of these things, and this just showing how much, in the same way that the actual museum shows like how much was done, and that it endures today, the effects of this thing, the effects of the Holocaust, and the human life that was taken. 2/3 of European Jews died in the Holocaust, and I was wondering, like, why is it the cleaners? Is it because they're keeping this memory clean and showing you just the way that this movie is trying to do? Is it trying to say that now these people are living in something, and this is just their job? They're not even noticing the evil because they're just clean. They're just going about their 9 to 5, whatever, cleaning the museum. I don't know. I don't know what it's trying to say exactly there. Maybe it's all of these things.
Yeah. And I just want to wrap up here very quickly, but when it comes to like contemplative cinema, you have written down Drive My Car, Ghost Story, and Under the Skin were some sort of recent examples of that. I know you've praised and talked about your love of a ghost story. You've seen Under the Skin and Drive My Car, and I was curious, this is another one of those contemplative cinema examples of that. In terms of these examples I have written down, and maybe anything else you can think of, where does this rank? Or not really rank, but just when you think about stuff like this, that's very, very slow and very contemplative and very not meandering, but very much takes its time and very much forces the viewer to sit in the scenes and the sounds and the sort of just all of that stuff. How does it work for you in comparison to these other things that I've mentioned here?
Yeah, I mean, the other ones have Rooney Mara crying into a pie. At least one of them has Rooney Mara crying into a pie for about 10 minutes straight.
Right.
So yeah, it's an interesting comparison that I hadn't really thought. Obviously, I thought about the Under the Skin comparison, but I didn't really make the connection to either of those other movies. But I do see that kind of slow, long, and also with Ghost Story, which is a movie that like you said, I do like. It's a movie that I took a long time to be like, do I like this one? Yeah. I like David Lowery, but what was this? And I think they're movies that you do kind of have to sit and think on quite a bit. And yeah, just if we did this podcast a week from today, I might have a different opinion because I have been thinking about this movie. I think that I am more of a fan of Lowery's approach to this than Glazer's.
Yep.
This kind of style of filmmaking. So I guess I would put the Lowery stuff over the Glazer stuff overall.
Yeah, like Green Knight is another one that we both enjoyed from 2021, which I guess you could put in there as being this sort of, I guess you could call it experimental, right? Because there is so many moments that you really need to focus on.
It really walks the line between experimental and traditional narrative.
Yeah.
Whereas those ones you all mentioned, I think, get more towards experimental student film style stuff, more cinema verite, and I like the Green Knight has a foot in both camps, that it's still a traditional narrative for the most part, but it does have these interesting, weird diversions into the kind of more contemplative, we're just going to let scene play out type stuff, and the way that it uses that as kind of like a tease to the audience at certain points, like the whole ending of the Green Knight, I think is pretty phenomenal. The way it
Yeah.
kind of blurs, is this a traditional narrative or is this something more like experimental where you're just watching it. So I am less pretentious than a lot of people who praise these films, but I'm also not a total Chad who's just gonna be like, yeah, just give me a fucking movie that has a plot. I like when it's sort of in the middle there. That's my favorite kind of thing. Like,
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, like you said, I want to take a break pretty soon, but I do want to check out Wim Wenders' Perfect Days. I heard is another one, and that's very much like that contemplative, experimental sort of thing. Obviously, the director of Paris, Texas, so it's if you've seen that, you kind of know what you're getting into with Perfect Days. So yeah, definitely recommend that, and I would recommend Zone of Interest for anybody that's enjoyed Under the Skin and is heard has listened to us for the past 10-15 minutes talk about this. If anything we said sounds interesting to you, then definitely check it out. Would highly recommend watching it in the theater. I think this is not something I would not have gotten half as much that I did get out of it watching it at home. Definitely would have gotten distracted watching it at home, but I think this is one of those movies that is necessary to watch in theaters for the full impact of it, right?
I completely agree. I think this is one where you need to be trapped. You can't be looking at your phone or going to the bathroom or waiting on a package or whatever. And the sound design, the sound design is so good in this. And if you're in, especially a theater with a very good sound around you,
yep,
I think that would make all the difference. Like I said, I can't really recommend this one as much as you. I will throw out though some alternative recommendations. I think the movie is fine, but the book of The Book Thief is one of the most powerful pieces about people living through the Holocaust that I've ever read, and it is emotionally devastating. And it is kind of the more we were talking a lot about that black and white negative scene with the girl putting out the apples or potatoes or whatever they are. I think it's mostly from that perspective, which I think I like a lot more, which is why movies like Jojo Rabbit and books like The Book Thief work a lot, and Schindler's List, of course, too, work a little bit better for me, because I don't need to. I would rather see a little girl realizing that fascism is bad than watching boring Nazis for an hour and a half.
Yeah, I think it's closer to 2 hours, but yes. So that was
an hour 45, so right there in the middle.
Yes. So yeah, out of the last 10 Best Picture nominated films, I would probably put this in the top third. But yeah, definitely worth watching in my mind. So with that, let's take a break. But after on the other side of the break, we'll do some Best Picture winner marathon stuff, physical media discussions, and letterbox assignments. And we will see you then. And we're back. Couple things I want to talk about. We got one movie a day update. I've seen 38 films this year. That puts me about 3 or 4 ahead. It's coming out Monday, so we'll see how many I've seen on Sunday. But yeah, for now I'm up 3 movies. How goes it you over there, sir?
Yeah, let me pull up my 2024 on Letterboxd here, and I have watched 29 movies.
Okay,
I guess. Yeah, so I guess I'm a little behind. I started off strong.
Yeah,
but waned a little bit in the last couple weeks.
Yes, being unemployed will do that for you. Give you a little bit more time to watch stuff. So in addition to just watching Best Picture nominated films this year, I also am starting a little project watching all of the Best Picture winners from all time, starting in 1928. Started with Wings. Let me see. Yep, started with Wings. Started very strong. Wings from 1928. It's one of those movies that it's like, how this seems like a miracle. There are a few movies, I don't know, Derek, if you've seen movies from this time period and maybe a little further up. Wings is one of them. Some of the Chaplin stuff, some of the I'm blanking on the other silent film stars of their day, but they did some incredible stuff with the technology they had back then. The Night of the Hunter is a movie that if you go back and watch it from the year it came out, just looks incredible. It looks like I can imagine Wes Anderson took a lot of inspiration from that movie because it does very much a lot of stuff he does.
Mike Lee too took a lot of inspiration from that.
Yeah, exactly. So I checked out Wings. I also checked out the Broadway Melody, which is one of the worst movies I've ever seen. It just has no discernible narrative. Just things sort of happen. Songs are just sort of sung. Terrible movie. But I did also check out the All Quiet on the Western Front, the original from 1930. Very, very good. It's very interesting watching this stuff like this because it's, what is it, 18 years before the start of World War II. So, it's trying, obviously in retrospect, it was a bad idea to try to make a movie that was sympathizing with the Germans, a decade and a half before they do another one. They do another fucking World War. And of course, it's all starring Americans. So that's another strange thing. For them playing Germans. But yeah, much better.
Is it like Kirk Douglas or something in it?
No, I think that was even before his time.
Oh, wow. I think maybe I'm thinking of Paths of Glory or something.
Paths of Glory, exactly. He was in that. No, this stars people named Louis Walheim, Lou Aries, John Ray, Arnold Lucy, just a bunch of people I've never even heard of. Directed by Louis Milestone. See if he's done anything else I've seen. Okay, so he would go on to direct the original Ocean's 11 in 1960, 30 years later.
Oh, wow.
The Strange Love of Martha Ivers. He directed the original Mutiny on the Bounty. He did Of Mice and Men. Okay. So there was that. Let's see what else I've watched. All Quiet on the Western Front, Boys in the Boat. That's the most notable stuff. So yeah, 10 ahead, watch some of that. So yeah, I'll be checking in. It was interesting. The stuff that I found, a lot of stuff on YouTube, a lot of the early stuff is obviously free streaming on YouTube. But there was one movie that I was looking through to try to find all of the Best Picture winners. There's one called Cimarron from like 32 or 33.
Yeah, it's supposed to be terrible.
Yeah, I had to actually buy it on Blu-ray because I literally could not find it anywhere. So I got that. That's the next one coming up.
Good luck. Good luck.
Thank you.
I hear that. Yeah, that and the Broadway Melody are the ones I always hear that are just like really bad.
They are very bad. They did on the most recent Big Pick. They were talking about physical media, and because of Zaslav and all of the streaming stuff and all of this, stuff is coming off there rapidly and movies are being deleted. And just because of all that stuff, they did a most recent physical media sort of check-in to see where they're at. And they talked about, Arrow and Criterion obviously is one of the big ones. Vinegar Syndrome is another one. Where are you at with physical media these days, Derek? And I was curious if because of that and because of, the podcast and because of just your general love of movies, do you own the most amount of physical media you've ever owned in your life? Because I'm getting pretty close there myself.
Yeah, it's interesting because I listened to this episode too, and I was thinking about it today, driving back from work. I recently bought the, speaking of Arrow, which they had just a big sale at my day job, Barnes & Noble. For Arrow, they always do the Criterion sales, and people go crazy for that. But nobody talks about the Arrow ones, and I bought the Hugo 4K.
Nice.
Even though I had Hugo already on Blu-ray or DVD, I was like, I gotta get this. This is so cool, and it's a really cool box set. And yeah, I was thinking about this. I am a big physical media person. I used to buy just like a shit ton of stuff on DVD. It's kind of so easy to stream now that I do end up just streaming stuff typically.
Yep.
And I think though this is the most stuff I've owned because I did have a lot of VHSs in the 90s, or my family did. And I am really sad because I went to my parents' house recently and found all my old the Disney clamshells, which mom kept, but I guess she got rid of all the other VHSs,
Oh no.
which made me sad because I would have really have loved to be like, where's those old Star Wars special editions, in that cool gold box. But yeah, I have quite a. I'm not a like huge eclectic collector.
Yep.
And a lot of it's just like, just regular run of the mill DVDs that you would get at like Target or whatever. But I do have a lot of it because from probably about 2000 and like 4 or 5 to I guess when streaming started to become so ubiquitous. I guess probably in like maybe like 2015, 2014, I had been collecting quite a bit of stuff. And now when I buy stuff, it's typically just, going to be like one of those boutique style DVDs, like the Hugo one or like a Criterion release or something like that. I have to really care about a movie to get it on physical. But I do super appreciate the medium. Then you have it, which is always nice because it can't be taken away from you.
Yes, that's a big reason why I've been collecting so much stuff recently. Just to have it, a lot of the stuff I've been getting to is just, big bunch of stuff, stuff that looks good on Blu-ray or 4K Blu-ray. I think there's a lot of stuff that you stream it, and even streaming in 4K, you definitely can see the difference between physical media and streaming. Definitely noticed that with the Batman recently. I watched that on Max and then switched over to the my 4K Blu-ray of that, and it's just the blacks. Just there's that that thing you talk about, people that get into physical media and they always talk about the deeper blacks when it comes to the 4K Blu-rays, but it is true. It very much is true.
It's like,
just,
do you ever watch a Dolby movie like in theaters?
Yes.
Yeah, it's like that thing that they. This was black. Now this is black.
Yes, exactly. He did a follow up. Sean Fantasy did a follow up recently. I just want to pull up the tweets talking about the different distributors because we said Criterion is one, Arrow is one, Vinegar Syndrome is one that he says a lot of exploitation movies, extreme art house, well curated oddities for that one. Radiance is one that apparently does. Idiosyncratic mix of American cult favorites, Japanese, European genres, select styles, good extras. There's one I've been getting into recently because I checked out their website. Kino Lorber. He says
Kino Lorber, yeah, they're a big one, yeah.
They are, yeah. He says they are steady producers of catalog titles and off the beaten path remasters. And the last one is Second Sight, a UK label that is quietly formulating its own history of auteur genre classics of the past half century. So definitely want to check that stuff out. So yeah, definitely will be adding to the collection as stuff comes off the streaming sites. So there's that. Last up.
Yeah, can I say something real fast about that too? You mentioned Sean Fennessy. There's another podcast that and podcaster that I wanted to mention that also did a physical media episode recently. I wanted to shout out Force 5. It was a podcast that I have been lucky enough to be on, and I've had the host of that show on my show as well. So he did a episode on top 5 physical media because he always that's the premise of the show is that every week Jason Kleberg is the guy's name. He does a episode on like a top 5 a movie related thing, and this time it was about a month ago this episode released top 5 physical media releases of 2023. So if you are interested in hearing more about the physical media landscape, check that episode of the Force 5 out. I would really recommend it.
Nice, very cool. So with that, let's get to letterboxed assignments. I watched mine from last time, or no, I actually didn't watch mine from last time. Mine was The Kingdom of Dreams of Madness. I believe it was okay. It was on Max. Okay, my bad. I forgot to watch that one. Your assignment though, HUD. I believe you did check this out, right? From 1963.
I did. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. This is really good. This is Paul Newman. One of the it's like a late black and white film, but it looks really, really great for in black and white. Very, the emptiness and contrast. It feels very much like a movie that would come out a decade later. This is from the early 60s, obviously, but it feels like a 70s movie. You have this very unlikable character played by Paul Newman, which is, well, he is likable, but he's also unlikable. And what I mean by that is he's somebody he's so charismatic. He's Paul Newman, and the kid in it, he's got this nephew, who's actually played by the same kid from Shane. He's about 10 years older now, and he's just like, yeah, like HUD is the fucking coolest. He's fucking Paul Newman, and you're like, yeah, he is. And and then there's a point in the movie where he just does something really just unforgivable, and you're like, oh man, and it's. Yeah, just kind of this movie about these, and at first I thought it was very conservative, but I think the more I watched the movie, the more I thought about it. It's actually not. It's kind of like, yeah, watch out for these guys. These this very capitalistic mindset that is just coming in and just trying to make a quick buck and not worrying about who you hurt or anything else but yourself. And HUD feels like he's not like any other character I've seen Paul Newman play. He feels like a Travis Bickle or like one of these guys that would be in a grungy 70s movie, while also being handsome and likable. And it came out kind of as, I guess, Westerns were dying, and it feels very thematically appropriate because it is set in the present day of the film, the 60s, and it's about a dying ranch and this dying style of life. And I think it's a pretty masterful work, honestly.
Very cool. So that was from 63. Directed by Martin Ritt. Martin Ritt did the first adaptation of The Spy Who Came In From the Cold in 65, the John le Carré book, the adaptation of that. I actually just watched The Pigeon Tunnel, the documentary on John le Carré, which is very good. Definitely check that out. He also did, Martin Ritt did Norman Ray, but also worked with, HUD. It seems like one of his 4 or 5 collaborations with Paul Newman. He did a movie called Paris Blues in 61, Ombre in 67, and The Long Hot Summer in 1958. So, yeah, seems like a very prosperous collaboration between Newman and Martin Ritt.
Yeah, and I think Newman would find a lot of times directors that he liked, that he would, these collaborations that worked for him, that he would, he worked with George Roy Hill 3 times in 3 of my favorite films of all time, in Butch Cassidy, Slapshot, and The Sting. And of course, he even reteamed in 2 of those 3 with Robert Redford.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think he was a guy who found people who worked well with and repeated that. And I think HUD, honestly, if this wasn't Martin Ritt, if you just replace the credit with Martin Ritt with Martin Scorsese, I think this, and people like this movie, but I think that this would go down as equal with like Raging Bull or Taxi Driver. Nice. If this had just been by one of those auteur guys.
Yeah.
And because I think that the auteurs, dominated the 70s. And I'm not a big fan of the auteur theory, as everyone who listens to this knows.
Yep.
and so this kind of just proves it. These visions that these guys had, about these anti-heroes coming in, and it's something that was present 10 years before this, and existed in films like this one.
Yeah. Okay. All right, so with that, I'm going to shuffle my watch list and see what we get. I got Sanctuary. Been meaning to watch this for a while. We got one of my favorite actors, Christopher Abbott and Margot Qualley, in a claustrophobic thriller, paranoia thriller. Directed by Zachary Wigan. Like I said, Christopher Abbott, Margot Qualley. The synopsis is...
Fan of hers?
What's up?
I said I'm a fan of hers.
Fan of hers, yes. Yeah, what was she in recently? Oh, she was in Poor Things for a little bit, yeah. Spoiler alert for that, but she was in that. Oh, and Christopher Abbott, they were both in that. That's right, interesting. So the synopsis of Sanctuary is: confined to a claustrophobic hotel room, the heir to a hotel empire and the dominatrix who has primed him for success become locked in a battle of wits and wills as he tries to end his relationship with her. Very cool. All right.
Interesting.
So we're checking that out. That's streaming on Hulu right now. So, Derek, you do the same for me, bud. Right. Go to watch list and hit shuffle and know what you get.
I got The Velocipaster.
Nice.
Are you familiar with this one?
Yes, I believe it's in that Sharknado sort of genre thing.
Yes, this is a movie that, just to give people an idea of it, it has a overall rating on Letterboxd of 3. However, a quarter of the ratings that it got were 5 stars. So
amazing. Nice.
All right.
All right, sounds good. All right, so, and that'll just leave us with plugs. Check out the podcast, Medium. Check out the Medium blog, damian-sherman.medium.com. Go to my Letterboxd, still Santa Claus Kinski, SantaKlauskinski, Letterboxd.com. Go to Film Essayist on YouTube, Spotify for podcasters. Check out all my interviews with B.R. Yeager, Cinematheque, and go last year. Check out all the stuff me and Dion did with the last season of Succession, season 4, and the Bear season 2. Bear season 2 is still relevant because they only did the first season. Got nominated for the last Emmys. The Emmys coming up, I think in April or May this year. There'll be season 2 will be nominated for the awards that year. So check that out. Go back and check out all of our discussions about season 2 of The Bear. Derek, what you got to plug?
The Underrated Movie Podcast. That is the other podcast that I do on opposite Mondays, where I talk about a film that is underrated, underappreciated, under the radar. So got some cool episodes coming up in February. I've got I just did one with, I had guest Pat Mayo on to talk about one of the weirder movies that I've ever seen, which is Southland Tales. Next week, though, is going to be Night and Day, which I had on Allie and Tyler. They're a real-life couple who host a podcast together, and they both came on and guested for me for my Valentine's Day special, which is Night and Day. So, Tom Cruise, Cameron Diaz, James Mangold directed action romance thriller. So that was a lot of fun to talk about. So plenty of, over 120 back episodes for people to go back and listen to. Underrated Movie Podcast. However you're listening to this, go listen to that anywhere. All the socials, Underrated Movie Podcast. And then you can check out some of my writing on places like Watch Mojo and Film Threat. Going to be having I've got a lot of my reviews on independent films coming up on Film Threat if you guys want to hear some of my more written stuff. And of course, I also do a lot of writing over on Underrated Movie Podcast Substack and my own Medium, just Derek McDuff. I know we talked about our top 10 movies on here. If you want to see that in a written form, I did put it down on both those places.
Yes. Yeah, I read that. It was very well written. Very good job over there.
Thank you.
Next time, a little bit of a tease. We've got the woman whose mother was killed while she was researching spiders in the Amazon, Madam Web. Madam Web is coming out next week, so look forward to that. We've got a movie called Lisa Frankenstein.
I'm excited for that.
Yeah. And a movie that I've seen the trailer for so many times, and it gets worse every single time I watch it. Bob Marley, One Love. Oh my God. Don't worry, blah, 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 about the thing, blah, blah, blah. The name Bob Marley. You thought you knew the name. Now here's his story.
Bob, I know it's dangerous. But you're the only one who can unite the people.
You ready, Bob? No guns can stop this message. I want the world to change.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of music biopics. That's well documented.
Yeah. All right, so come back for all of that, and
I think Out of Darkness comes out on Friday. So
Out of Darkness, what is that? You have to remind me what is Out of Darkness.
That was the one. It was on my top 10 of the year. It's the Paleolithic horror film. 4000 BC. Monsters are coming from people in the woods. Fuck yeah, let's go.
Okay, so come back for all of that next time. But for Midnight Film Society podcast, I've been Damien.
I've been Derick.
And we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.